If you've been with us from the beginning, you might remember our grave robbing episode.
People did it for money. Some did it for medical advancement, like the knowledge, all the things that we have today. Without it, we probably wouldn't know as much as we do today. Was it legal? I mean, it was a gray area, but it was absolutely necessary.
But this dude, he did it for love.
Oh,
Don't be saying that yet.
oh, great.
Welcome back to Exhumed. I'm Lisa.
And I'm Samantha.
This is the story of Carl Tanzler and the Corpse Bride. This should have been a Valentine's Day episode. Okay, guys, this story is a gnarly one. It's gross, it's weird, and just when you think it's about as weird as it can get, it gets even weirder.
So I'm assuming a trigger warning for all of the things.
I don't want to give anything away. Just if you're easily grossed out,
Trigger warning for all the things.
all things gross. Okay, so picture it. Key West, Florida, 1931. You get admitted into the hospital. You're dying of tuberculosis. Back then, tuberculosis was a death sentence. You're fatigued. You're coughing up blood. You're feverish. You're basically drowning in your own lungs. You're sick. You're in pain. You're suffering. And nothing can be done. A doctor walks in. He takes a special interest in you. He's a little weird, maybe a little creepy. In a short period of time, he starts bringing you gifts, and then he tells you he loves you. Creepy, huh? Just what you want to hear when you're sick. But he also says that he can cure you. He seems pretty confident and knowledgeable, so maybe he can cure you. You're desperate. You've accepted that it's inevitable that you're going to die. At this point, you just want the suffering to be over. But this doctor is telling you that he not only can end your suffering, but you're going to live. What would you do?
I have no idea. Probably let him keep saying the things and try to get cured.
You're going to let him try. So that's where this story begins. The patient, a 22-year-old woman named Maria Elena Milagro de Hoyos. We're going to call her Elena.
Yeah, it's a mouthful.
Yeah. And the doctor, Count Carl von Kassel, 52 years old. He's of European nobility. He's an aristocrat and a man of status. He's a little weird. He's a little eccentric, but he's confident and convinced that he can do things that other people can't. And for a long time now, he's had visions of a dark-haired woman who he is destined to be with. So when Elena was admitted into the hospital, Count Carl took one look at her and said, "That's her. That's the woman in my visions. That's my woman." He right away saw her as the love of his life and the woman that he was destined to be with. From that moment on, he visited her every day, and he started bringing her gifts like perfume and clothing and jewelry and things that she was probably never going to be able to use because she was dying. But he was convinced that he was going to cure her, not just treat her. Cure her. He tries everything. He tries x-rays. He tries experimental treatments, and he also tries using devices that he made himself.
How does that work? It's 1930s.
He was an
There
inventor.
wasn't very many regulations.
The thing is, the family's letting him do all of this with the hopes that he really can cure Elena. But Count Carl von Kassel was not a real doctor. He was a radiologist. He did x-rays. That's it.
Okay.
And his vampire-sounding name, Count Carl von Kassel, he made it up. He was of no nobility. He had no status. He was just a dude, a weird one. But the family doesn't know that at this point. The family did realize that he was clearly not right. He was weird, he was creepy, but he said that he could cure Elena, and he seemed like he was pretty confident. So they tolerated him, and they just let him keep trying. Nothing he tried worked. Surprise, surprise. And Elena died in October 1931. Carl lost it. He couldn't accept it. He couldn't take it. He took it very, very badly. And you would think that that would be the end of the story, but there's so much more.
Great.
Carl pays for Elena's tomb. I mean, the family probably let him because, funeral costs. It's a free tomb. So he buys her an above-ground mausoleum. For 2 years after that, Carl visits her almost every single day. Eventually, within that 2 years, he starts going at night, only at night,
Why at night?
because he had stuff to do during the day. You'll find that out later.
Great. Okay.
But when he visits her, he sits next to her, he sings to her, he talks to her, he reads to her, he brings her flowers and all of the gifts that he was bringing her already at the hospital. He kept all that up. But after 2 years, those visits weren't enough anymore. So Carl takes her and he brings her home. I mean, he owned the mausoleum. He probably had a key.
Hold on, I thought that he just bought the grave. He bought the entire building?
He bought the mausoleum. Yeah.
Okay. Like, something about this is reminding me of, remember Tom Petty, Last Dance with Mary Jane, the music video?
A little bit, yeah.
Mhm.
I have another song in mind, but I'll talk about that later. So Carl claims that the night he takes Elena, he claimed that he heard her singing from her tomb and asking him to take her from her tomb and bring her home. So to him, he's just fulfilling her wishes. He's just doing what she asked him to do. 7 years he lives with her as husband and wife. She's already 2 years decomposed. He takes her home and keeps her for 7 years. He changed her clothes every day. He sleeps with her in his bed. He dances with her. He talks to her as if she's still alive. Some sources say that he would even cook for her and prop her up at the dinner table with him. He just pretended that she was alive. And since she is so decomposed and she's not getting any fresher, Carl rebuilds her.
I would imagine fingers would fall off.
Well, he does stuff to prevent that kind of stuff from happening.
Oh.
So her skin is rotting away. He replaces it with silk, wax, a plaster mix, things like that. Her bones, to hold them together, he used piano wire and string and adhesives to keep the joints in place, to keep the joints together. Because, you know, once your skin rots away, once everything else rots away, your bones aren't attached to anything anymore. You know what I mean? So he attached him. He also used wire coat hangers to stabilize the skeleton. And he used cloth bandages to kind of wrap up some areas to keep little pieces in place.
But, like, what about the sinking? Like, your face starts to sink, your stomach starts to sink.
We'll get into that. So first, her eyes are sunken in and they're rotting and they're eventually not there anymore. So he replaces those with glass eyes. The hair was falling out in clumps. So he gathered up all the hair, made her a wig, stuck it back on her head. Her body cavity. She was sinking in. So he fills it with rags and different other materials to hold her shape. He puts perfume and chemicals like disinfectants in there to mask the smell of her decaying body.
God, like anything is going to help.
It's basically like putting perfume on when you already smell like BO. You know? It's never going to smell good.
And now this one's disturbing. Like, it's reminding me of there's a funeral home in Toledo. A lot of things happened there, but they were putting dryer sheets in the ducts of the ceiling.
That's disgusting. Oh, you told me about that, yeah.
Yeah.
So the neighbors start catching on to this, right? His house kind of smells when they walk past it. And even though he's got the windows all covered so that nobody can see what's going on inside the house, they can still see shadows. And they see him dancing with this thing. And they can tell it's not a person because he's the only one moving the way he's supposed to be moving, you know? Like just the shadows. They could tell that something was just not right.
Yeah.
And it probably looked to them like he just had a life-size doll and they're like, okay, he's a weirdo. But his house smelled. They also hear him having conversations with someone who never talked back. And Carl was seen buying weird shit at the store. Like different types of cloth and chemicals and perfumes, and it just looked weird. And when he was going to the grave yard all the time. He was seen almost every day. Like, people were watching him go to the
And then
cemetery
suddenly he's not.
every day. And exactly. And then suddenly he's not going to the cemetery anymore.
But okay, so he buys his mausoleum. Was it just a single
It must have been.
mausoleum?
It
Because
must have
if
been.
you're not gonna, I wish it would have occurred to me before, but you're not gonna buy the entire building of multiple people, because then their loved ones aren't gonna be able to.
Yeah.
Okay, then it was just the single.
It was
So I'm thinking, like,
either
wouldn't.
it was either that, or she was like in one of those walls where, like, there's a wall and then there's a bunch
Yeah.
of drawers with people in it. But I think it was an actual building all to herself.
Yeah, because otherwise people would go in there and see that someone broke it out.
Yeah.
They broke the marble or cement, whatever they're made out of.
Yeah, but he bought it. So it stands to reason that he might have had a key.
Yeah, so I think that it's going to be one of the small mausoleum, the private ones where 1 to 4 can fit in.
Yeah,
It has to be that, like a private family one then.
probably. So there's rumors circulating around town, and there's just, there's whispers here and there. There's people saying shit. And the family slowly starts hearing the rumors. Elena's family. They found out through gossip. So they're like, you know what? Carl did show a lot of interest in her. We haven't been to the mausoleum in a while. Maybe this is true. Maybe I should have the police investigate his house. So that's exactly what they did. They called the police, and the police went out to his house to investigate. By the time the police investigated, the rumors weren't quiet anymore. There wasn't any proof that he had Elena, but that's what people were saying around town. Like, he's keeping Elena in his house. Now, when the police came, it was basically just kind of like a routine check. They didn't have any kind of backup cars with them. They didn't run up to the door. They didn't break the door down. They just went up and knocked on the door.
Right, like a wellness check.
Yeah. And at this point, they're not really expecting to see anything fucked up. There's no sirens. There's no nothing. So Carl answers the door calmly, composed, no panic. He did not get defensive at all. He just steps aside and says, "Come on in, officers." Lets them right in. Right away, the police knew that something felt off. The house stunk, kind of like a musty smell. It smelled like what we were talking about earlier, like someone had sprayed a bunch of stuff to cover up something that smelled nasty.
Like when guys use Axe body spray in, like, what, 2000s?
Yeah.
Remember that?
Instead
The
of
smell
taking a
all
shower.
of that?
Yeah. The house is also dark because the windows are covered, and the air just feels heavy, like it's almost kind of hard to breathe. And they just felt really uneasy the whole time. They moved around the house, and Carl doesn't stop them from going anywhere. Carl just calmly follows along behind them, never tells them, no, don't go in there. No, don't look here. Don't look there. He's just calm about the whole thing. And then they reach his bedroom, and what they saw was a nightmare. On the bed is a figure dressed up and positioned, and it's just laying there like it's sleeping. At first, they just think that there's somebody sleeping in the bed. But then they look closer. The skin doesn't look real. It looks waxy. It's shiny. And it's pulled tight in places it's not supposed to be. Like where some folds and creases would be from where, like, your arms and legs bend. It wasn't.
I've looked up this picture before.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah, it looks like patchwork and porcelain.
Ugh, yeah. Right away, they see that the eyes aren't real. The eyes are glass. They're not blinking. They're just staring. And that's when they realize it's a body. Not exactly preserved, but rebuilt. They see the wires and the string and everything in the bones. The wig is clearly a wig, and it just looks wrong. Her face was clearly reshaped by Carl's hands. Like, you could tell that he used his fingers to reshape her face.
And who knows if she was even embalmed. But In the
She
1930s, embalms wasn't very advanced.
She may have been embalmed, but even when you're embalmed and your body starts to rot away, you turn to liquid and you cave in and just.
So she was squishy? I'm sorry. I'm going to hell. Well,
At
not
this
after
point,
he was
she's
done with her.
probably. At this point, she's probably not squishy anymore, but she probably was at some point. That's probably what one of the smells was. But he's got her wrapped up in bandages and everything. And you could clearly tell that she was like once human, but now like a makeshift, just like you said, patchwork, life-size doll that he just did whatever he could to keep her held together.
She was a quilt.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And they saw that inside her, where there should have been nothing left, there were rags and materials just packed in her, to hold her shape so she wasn't caved in anymore. And they realized that he had actually reconstructed her. Immediately, Elena's body is removed from the house. Carl is arrested and taken into custody. And they start building a case. They start building a case against him for grave robbing and abuse of a body or desecration of a corpse. Now, you would think that that's the end of the story. It is
So
not.
he wasn't. What was he actually charged with?
I think it was desecration of a corpse and grave robbing.
So we talked about this in the resurrectionist or body snatching or grave robbing episode. Kind of all the same in a way. It wasn't necessarily illegal for body snatching. It was illegal for grave robbing, and there is a big difference. It was legal to take the body because there was no one left to like occupy it to defend themselves.
Mhm.
But if you took any items from the grave, like clothing, necklace, anything at all, that was illegal because then that was considered theft.
Yeah.
So with like body snatching, where it was the legal part, they had to strip the deceased person naked and then take it. But heavier laws didn't come into effect until I want to say like the 1950s. Desecration of grave was kind of, you did something, but
Kind of a
this
gray
is what
area.
we're just going to, this is what we're going to call it. This is what we're going to punish you with because the others is all gray areas.
Yeah.
You didn't have
It was a gray
permission.
area. It was a gray area because most of the time when a body was taken, it was for medical purposes. It was for medical knowledge. It was for a good reason. But in this case, it was not. And it was illegal to dissect a body. And he didn't exactly dissect her, but he did abuse it quite a bit.
Yeah.
So during Carl Tanzler's trial, they put Elena's body on display.
What?
Yeah. She was
In
put
like
on
the
display.
courtroom?
No, in a local funeral home, but it was open to the public for viewing. Over
And that's-
6,000 people came to see her.
And that's probably how we have the picture today.
Probably. Over 6,000 people came to see her. The lines would be out the door. And it's not that they wanted to just see a body. They wanted to actually see what he did to her. Because by this point, everybody in the country knew. The newspapers got a hold of it and just had a heyday. The whole country had been reading about this in the newspaper.
Whether people want to admit it or not, everyone in different ways has a morbid curiosity. The internal thoughts, you've never seen it, so you want to see it.
Yeah, but it's just kind of messed up that they put her on display in first place. When is she going to get her piece, So like I said, the newspapers took this story and covered it over and over and over again. Everybody in the country knew about it. But they weren't framing it like you think that they would frame it. This is a crime. This is a sick man, right? The Miami Herald, this was a front page story, and it spread countrywide, and they treated the case like true crime as well as a bizarre, dark romance. That's how they presented this story. Because people weren't only horrified, they were also oddly intrigued. And, why wouldn't you be?
Yeah.
Like you said, morbid curiosity. There were headlines like The Mummy Bride of Key West and Love That Defied Death. They treated it like a tragic, dark love story and not a crime, not anything sick.
They're treating it like Romeo and Juliet.
They kind of were in a way, but either way, it would be sick. It's like a sick way to spin it. The whole thing is just sick anyway. Quotes from Key West Citizen. There's a quote that says, "He took the rigid skeleton of his beloved in his arms." They didn't use the word corpse. They didn't use the words rotting body. It's the language they used. You know what I mean?
She wasn't exactly a skeleton. There were things to fix.
Yeah. There were things he tried to fix.
But, them trying to be as, PC as possible for 1930s newspaper, I understand.
Yeah, but they passed it off as a love story instead of a crime. Yeah. And it's just weird. I get why, but it's just bizarre. Another quote said, "The horror story evolved into romance." This reshapes public perception and it induces sympathy. So instead of these people hearing about this sick dude that took this woman from her grave and lived with her corpse for 7 years, they were like, "Aw,"
There's no awe.
There's no awe. I told you in the beginning, don't be saying that. You said, "Aw."
As interested as we are in stories like this, we know it's wrong. Nothing about this is right. We may laugh about it, but I don't even think that I would go. I have that morbid curiosity, but I'm not sure if this happened in Ohio, I don't think that I would go and look.
I don't know if I would. Honestly, I don't know if I would.
I don't think I could.
Yeah, we have dark humor. We think this kind of stuff is funny, and we will have to eventually answer for this. But not today. So remember, before I get into the court case, and I'm going to keep the court case pretty short, Carl was psychologically evaluated before the court case, and he was declared fit to stand trial. He was declared sane and fit to stand trial. Remember that when I'm telling you this next part.
I don't even know what to think about that.
Tanzler's defense and justification is that he heard her singing to him from the grave and asking him to take her. He was doing what she asked. Also, when it comes to wanting to marry her, he said wanting to marry her was not for selfish reasons. He said, "I want this marriage because I can do so much more." And he meant something by that.
You do realize that if this was a female, if the sexes were reversed, the woman would have put in an insane asylum, had a lobotomy, would have been committed for hysteria.
Yeah.
And no one would have
probably
ever seen her again.
Now, this quote is unconfirmed, but there was a quote saying that Tanzler said, "She died because I gave this to her. I sent you to the angels." He says his actions were acts of love. Hold on. And the whole time he was talking like he felt that he was never doing anything wrong. He said she was meant to be mine. In his mind, the relationship was not inappropriate, and it was preordained because he was having visions. He knew that he was destined to be with her.
Wow.
Carl said, "I was trying to save her, not harm her." He said everything he did was an attempt to preserve her and eventually revive her. Keep that in mind for a second.
Oh, well, okay.
Preserve and revive.
So does he have power of insurgence? See Misty Day?
He was acting as a scientist and an inventor. He believed he could Frankenstein her, literally, and actually bring her back. He said his actions were not malicious, but devoted and experimental. By the way, side note, I forgot to say this earlier. The wire coat hangers, you know why he used those to reinforce her skeleton?
I mean, they
Well-
are pretty sturdy.
They're bendable too. He
'Kay.
used the wire coat hangers so that he could position her.
Well, I mean, that's creative, I guess.
So he could sit her up, lay her down, position her in all the ways that he wanted to position her.
Do we want to go
Hold
there?
your thought on that. Hold your thought on that. Now, all right. He wanted to eventually revive her, right? That brings us to the airship. I told you this story gets weirder and weirder as we go on. And keep in mind that he was declared sane and fit to stand trial. Then he starts talking about the airship.
Like a UFO?
No. So, the airship. Tanzler claimed that he was building an airship or spacecraft powered by electricity, magnetism, and cosmic energy. He sometimes even referred to atomic and celestial forces in his description. Tanzler claimed it could fly long distances, possibly across oceans. It could defy gravity using electromagnetic force. It could potentially travel to space. And it could bring Elena back to life. So this was part resurrection device, part escape vehicle. What it looked like, there are no confirmed pictures of what this thing actually looked like. But there are people who claimed that they saw his lab and they explained what the airship looked like. It looks like a blimp or a zeppelin, but much smaller, more like a pod, maybe big enough to fit 1 or 2 people at most. It was possibly made from scrap metal, wood, or salvaged parts, just like Elena.
Oh,
That's a fucked up joke, but I mean, he was doing the same thing to her. Now, remember when I told you that he started going to the mausoleum at night because he had shit to do during the day? This is what he was doing
He was-
during the day.
building a ship?
I mean, the whole time he was trying to build the ship to bring her back. Some accounts suggest propellers or fan-like components to it. There were electrical components. There were coils, wires, batteries everywhere. There were glass tubes and homemade electrical parts. It looked more like the experiment of a mad scientist than an actual functioning spacecraft. It looked like half early airplane prototype, half Tesla coil experiment, built with obviously unhinged obsession, not something that would ever realistically leave the ground. What it was supposed to do in Carl's mind was that, okay, he was visited by her vision. He was destined to save her. Death was not permanent if you understood the right forces.
So necromancy.
Kind of. So the part of it that was supposed to be a resurrection tool, it uses electricity and radiation-like forces to reanimate Elena's body. In his mind, this is what it
So
was
he was
going to do.
So he was trying to make her an animatronic.
No, I mean, back then, for a long time, they thought that electricity could actually reanimate a body. Who was it? Benjamin Franklin. He would put on shows, like not really shows, but like in front of audiences. He would like take a dead frog and he would zap it with like electrodes and stuff, and its arms would start moving, or its legs.
Well, that's also just physics.
Well, yeah, but they didn't know that then. They
Yeah,
thought
no,
of
I get it.
electricity. They thought of electricity as more of a celestial force, and they thought it was actually a tool they could use to bring people and animals back to life. So this is what Carl was trying to do with this thing, was bring Elena back to life, reanimate her body. Remember what she looked like after he was done reconstructing her? Can you imagine bringing her back to life?
Oh my God, no. She would be in, what was it, Barnum's Circus, but whatever that Curiosities is.
Oh,
Two
yeah.
names.
If you guys haven't seen pictures, look up the pictures. They're all over the internet. There's even a before picture of what she looked like when she was still alive, and then after Carl got a hold of her. It's alarming. Now, this was also an escape or relocation device. He talked about taking her somewhere far away, even outer space, or a remote location where they could live together without interference. He wanted her all to himself. And then there's the transcendence part. He believed they could overcome death entirely. Just cheat death, never die, and possibly exist beyond normal human limits. So he wanted to reanimate her body and then take her far away, and then they would be immortal and never have to be apart, live together forever. Forever and ever and ever. Now, was the airship real? I mean, it was real. He started it. He started building something. People saw it.
If it worked or not, that's a different question.
Yeah.
We know it didn't work.
He believed in what he was doing. He really did believe in what he was doing. But there was no proof of a completed operational airship, no verified flight, no functioning aircraft of any kind. So his experiment failed. So in combining pseudoscience, romantic delusion, and religious-like destiny, he truly believed death was just a problem that he could solve, and this airship was the solution.
Okay.
Does that sound like someone who is sane and fit to stand trial? I don't know. So after all this, the jury finds him innocent and Carl walks free. The jury called it love.
Okay, well, we're not going to get into like the psychological of that.
Yeah. Plus, the statute of limitations for grave robbing and desecration of a body, that was up. So they couldn't charge him with it. Statute of limitations was over. So he walked free. And he lived the rest of his life somewhat reclusive. And he ends up dying July 1952 of natural causes. He had a brain hemorrhage. He was 75 years old. And you would think that would be the end of the story, but again, it is not. It gets weirder. So he dies in his sleep. Like I said, natural causes, brain hemorrhage. But when they find him in his bed, he's not alone.
Did he dig her back up?
He was laying next to Elena. No, he did not dig her back up. He built a new one. He built a new Elena.
Feel like that's better than what he had done before.
Yeah, but it's still.
Oh no, it's not. No, none of it is right. But he probably should have just done that to begin with.
So what he does is he builds a new one. He made a replacement. Basically, when Elena died, he brought her body back to his house so that he could pretend and convince himself that she never died. And when her body was taken from him and given a proper burial after being on display for a while, he still wanted to pretend that she never died. So he had to build a new one. He built a life-size female figure. He built it roughly to match Elena's weight, height, and measurements, you know?
Yeah, okay.
He used wax or plaster for the head. He sculpted the face to resemble Elena's face as closely as he could possibly remember.
Well, he's had so much practice.
I know. He made her a wig. It's unclear whether he kept Elena's hair or if he just got other hair to make a wig. Or maybe he was just able to somehow keep her wig. I don't know. But this thing had a wig that looked exactly like the one Elena was wearing. He dressed her in Elena's clothing, or clothing that was as close to what she would wear, like in his mind, what she would wear. Jewelry, accessories, all that. He positioned her like a person. And this wasn't like a life-size doll that he would just kind of stash away in a closet until he wanted to bring her out and play with her again. This was his wife. This was someone who lived with him. This was a person. This was a live person in his nutty little brain. So it wasn't like just a statue. It was like a mannequin that he treated like a living woman. And that's how he was found when he died, was laying right next to her. So he did, in fact, get to spend the rest of his life with her.
Some great conversations, I would imagine.
Yeah. I mean, the upside to all of this is he didn't have to maintain this one. It's kind of like, build it once, it's a done deal. Yeah. Now, I saved the best for last. For all of our sick little monkeys out there, I'm going to answer the question you guys have been asking this entire episode. You might be a little disappointed, might not. All right. This info came from rumor. Now, this is not confirmed information. This is just rumor. Whether the rumor came from someone who was there that day when she was discovered in his home and then they kind of like leaked the information, or maybe someone just made it up entirely. Maybe Carl admitted it to someone. We don't know. It's not documented. It's not confirmed. And this story was so dark to begin with that back in those days, at least, the newspapers are not going to put sexually explicit content into a news article. So it's not documented anywhere. But some reports claim that he didn't just keep her. He modified the body for extracurricular activities.
Like,
Sexy
did
time?
he use a condom?
God, I hope so. Can you imagine the STD that goes way past STD? So there were claims that he installed a type of tube system in her pelvic area. Because, I mean, he would have to. There's like nothing there anymore. There's nothing there. He would have had to construct something. And I'm sure that forensics wasn't there yet when it came to testing for his seed. And the body was so degraded to begin with, they probably didn't even think about doing that. And who knows, this story might be completely made up anyway. But I mean, he lived with her as husband and wife for 7 years. He was in love with her. Do you really think he didn't do that? I think he did something.
Something happened.
Mr. Tanzler, you are a dirty, dirty boy.
Curiosity, what was the age difference?
He was 52 and she was 22. 30-year difference. Yep. That's all I got. That's the story of Carl Tanzler and the Corpse Bride. And this whole time I've been telling this story, I've had a song in my head. If you're curious, look up Avenged Sevenfold, A Little Piece of Heaven. Don't say I didn't warn you. Only if you're curious. If you know, you know. If you're curious, check it out. If you're easily grossed out, please don't. And if you do, I'm sorry. It is very fitting for this episode. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
Okay. I feel sorry for him.
Who? Tanzler?
Well, both of them, but he had something screwed up. There was something seriously going on.
Yeah, he was
that
fucked
probably
up.
Could not have been fixed.
No.
Just don't do it.
So that's our episode for tonight. Hope you liked it. It was fun. It was fun researching this one. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, comment, all the things that help us grow. And we thank you for listening, and we hope to see you next time.
Yes, have a good night.
Have a good night.